Hello and welcome to part 3 of my deck collection video. This is Hazel Jane Tarot. So 2019 was a year that I was fully immersed into watching walkthroughs and videos on YouTube um, and on my Instagram channel at Hazel Jane Tarot. And I started to buy a lot more decks, and some of which I haven't really used very much, but I'm going to show what I've got the rest of my collection today. So this, the Dark Matson Tarot, was my first real serious FOMO purchase. In the January of 2019, there was a lot of buzz around this, and I thought the images looked great, was afraid of missing out, and ordered it. And while I really like it, I haven't really used it that much. So this comes from Tarot Tech Studio, which is in Poland. And these are the backs of the edition that I have. I think it's just the standard edition. I think they're really nice. I actually prefer them to the other kind of luxury edition backs. And so it has this matte black edging, which is really in perfect condition, but it hasn't really been shuffled that much. So the cards are really nice. The Devil, Justice, it's got this really nice cartoonish vibe. Strength, the Hierophant, the Empress, Temperance. And the court cards are lovely, really quite clear personalities coming through in each one, and they're named in the traditional way. So we have the Page of Pentacles, the Knight of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles. Look at her, gorgeous. And the King of Pentacles. So even just looking at this again today, I'm reminded why I bought it, and I wonder why I don't use it. And I think the main reason is just that I got too many decks at the same time, and just didn't have time to use them yet. But life is long. Hopefully I'll get using it at some point. So the minors, some of them are slightly different to the Rider-Waite-Smith, but still communicate the same meaning, like the potential of this taut rope, as she's just ready to spring. I really like that Three of Wands as well. Six of Cups. So I've just picked out a few random minor arcana that I particularly like. And I think I mentioned in my previous videos, the 8 and 9 of Swords are two of the cards that really make a big difference to how I feel about a deck when I'm deciding whether to buy it or not. And the 8 and 9 of Swords here are really effective. So I think once I'd seen this, I thought, yes, this would be a deck that I could read and that I could work with. So that is the Dark Matson Tarot, an expensive independent deck. So one that I definitely want to get round to using, so I can justify having bought it. Another expensive independent deck that I haven't used very much is the Moonchild Tarot. And straight away, even just lifting this, it's really heavy. And I think that's one of the reasons that I haven't used it very much. It has very thick cardstock, and it's very big cards, and it's quite hard for me to handle. But it comes in this lovely, really nice, I mean, the whole production quality of this package is so top notch. Like, there's nothing about how it's made that you could really complain about. The gilding, if you can see the light catching there on the back of the cards, they're lovely foiled, sort of gold foiled back. They've got that matte gold edging, and I mean, every part of the box is decorated. You have a really nice thick guidebook, which is in full color, that has lots to say about each card. So it's a really nice package. I got this from Little Red Tarot, the UK independent tarot distributor, and you know, I was on a wait list to get this when she had it in stock. So it was one I was really keen to get. So it comes with 3 extra cards: shadow work, Divine Wisdom, and the Moonchild card. And I mean, the art it's by Danielle Noel, who you might know from the Work Your Light Oracle and the Star Child Tarot as well, which I don't have the Star Child, but the colouring and the style of the Moonchild appealed to me a lot more. The Moon, Strength, Lovers. So it's beautiful to look at. This, instead of the world, we have the universe. One of the things that Dawn Michelle at Boho Tarot has mentioned a few times when she looks at this deck, she loves this deck and works with it a lot. But the people are all very young that are depicted. And they're very much beautiful people as well. The Queen of Wands is lovely. The King of Wands. I think there's two reasons why I haven't really worked with this very much. One is the large, thick cards that are hard to shuffle. And the other is that the images don't follow what I'm familiar with, and they are quite hard to read. And I'm not a reader who, kind of relies on my intuition or anything when I'm reading so much as I have a slightly more analytical approach to the elements that are present in the image, and that might prompt me to remember what I know about the meaning of that card. And then within that sort of menu of meanings that are associated with any one card, I'll use my intuition to pick out what feels most relevant to the querent and the question or whatever I'm reading about at the time. And with this deck, there's not as much to prompt me to the meanings that I know. Like here, this is okay. The Three of Cups, we have the three women together, so I can go back to what I know about the Three of Cups from that. But some of them I find harder. I suppose the Eight of Cups, there you have the Eight Cups at the front. You don't have the figure walking away, but I guess that is maybe implied within that. But it just doesn't, I just don't find it as easy to read. And like even trying to pick between the cards, I find it a little bit hard to page between them as well. So I'm not quite ready to move it on yet, because it was one I had really wanted, and it is really very beautiful. But yes, I don't really read with it very much yet. The New Era Elements Tarot is a bit of an anomaly in my tarot collection in that it's the only Thoth-based deck that I have, and I don't really have any intention or ambition to learn the Thoth system. I'm quite happy working with Rider-Waite-Smith kind of genre of decks. I bought this though because when I saw the art, it really blew me away, and I was having dreams about this deck, and I really felt like it was one that I needed to get. But once I got it, I actually found that the differences in the meanings meant it was quite difficult for me to read with. Or the other thing is there's some very confronting imagery in this deck, and I'm probably not going to show the most confronting cards, but just be warned, there's some very, very strong imagery in this deck. So the deck is by an Eleanor F. Piper, PhD, and as you can see, the pencil drawings are incredibly detailed and realistic. That was one of the cards that made me want to buy this deck. The Empress is really lovely. But then you have cards like this Devil card, which is just incredibly confronting and powerful. Definitely, no doubt, it's very powerful. But I don't know if I would feel comfortable reading for someone else with this kind of imagery, because it is so hard hitting. I really like that Lovers card. Then we have the Tower with the 9/11 and the Fall of the Berlin Wall juxtaposed in that card. Again, very powerful, but not necessarily something I'd want to put down on a table in front of somebody if I was reading for them. And I didn't know them, that it could be quite upsetting imagery to spring on somebody. In the minor arcana, then you have the aces are all depicted like this with a circle and the element in between, and they are, fire, water, the elements rather than cups and swords and so on. But then all of the minor arcana have these keywords at the bottom, and they aren't, from what I've looked up online, I haven't looked up every card, but I don't think they're always exactly the same as the keywords on the Thoth, but it's that sort of idea anyway. So domination, exploration, and in terms of the wands, exploration and the Three of Wands sort of fits with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but the Two of Wands and domination isn't necessarily the way I'd be used to reading that card. Four of Wands, perfection. So you can see the art is beautiful, but some of them are just quite confronting in the content. And then the court cards, each element, there's a different part of the world has been picked, like sort of east, west, and so on for the different direction, I guess the cardinal directions associated with the elements, and the peoples of those areas. So for air, you have people from the east represented, so the daughter of air, the son of air, the mother of air, and the father of air. And although those portraits are beautiful and really really well drawn, I'm not sure if I'm able to read with just those portraits, without having sort of the symbols that I'm used to from more Rider-Waite-Smith inspired decks. So that's the New Era Elements Tarot, and it's a really interesting deck, but I don't know if it's everybody's cup of tea. The Housewives Tarot I was given as a present, and it's great fun. By contrast, this is one that I would be quite happy to use with strangers at a party, put down on a table in front of people, and I wouldn't be worried about traumatizing them with the imagery, because this is a really lighthearted fun deck. So the cardstock is kind of papery, and I think with a bit of abuse, the top layer is starting to flake off, so maybe needs a wee bit of care. But it comes in this really fun box, actually, that's set up like a little recipe divider, and the book is small, and I wouldn't say it's like a brilliant beginner's guidebook, but it's very witty, and for anybody who knows tarot already, there's a lot to enjoy in how the cards are described. So this deck is by Paul Keppel and Jude Buffon, if I've pronounced those names correctly. So yeah, there's a lot of humour, as I say, in the way these cards are designed. So the Hierophant is the wireless, getting your news, believing everything they tell you. Death is a big mayonnaise jar of salmonella. Temperance, mixing it all up. The Devil is your bottle of pills and packet of cigarettes and the big chocolate cake. The Magician. The Hermit. All these just make me smile. So, and as you can see, the borders are different for the major arcana and then the different elements. So as you fan the deck out, you can see straight away the different elements of the suits. So the court cards are done as well, just nicely and quite wittily. We have the Page, the Knight, the Queen of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles. And the minor arcana are very obviously inspired by the Rider-Waite-Smith, but done with these vintage poster and advertising images. Four of Cups, Seven of Cups, Two of Cups. I don't know why I've picked all cups here. Just all the drinking references, the Knight of Cups. So this is definitely, if you're somebody who is going to bring a tarot deck to a party, or you had opportunity to read at those types of events, it would be a great deck, I think, for that type of situation. And it's one that I definitely enjoy working with. The Spirit Within Tarot was another one that was a gift, and this was my most recent tarot deck, so it's not one I've had a huge amount of time to work with, but I'd had my eye on this for a long time before I got it. So it's by Stephen Bright. There he is, and it's a really, really nice and quite unique looking deck, and again it comes with this good guidebook. This, by contrast, I think would be quite a good beginner deck, because it presents the archetypes really simply, and it's explained really quite clearly. So, like say for example this High Priestess, so it's done as a silhouette, but you can still see the two pillars, the veil. You can see the water behind her. Her foot is on the moon. You know, the sort of classic elements from the Rider-Waite-Smith card that sort of reduced down to very simple shapes and colors. So everything's there, but in a really clear way. One thing to do with the deck being done as silhouettes as well, the people have been drawn in a kind of gender ambiguous way, so that, for example, these lovers, that could be two men, it could be two women, it could be a man and a woman. You know, you can read different relationships into these characters because of the way they're drawn. So the silhouette creates a lot of space for people to find themselves in the images. This is great. Temperance, compared to the mixing in the Housewives tarot, it was the food mixer, and here we have a DJ mixing. So it's interesting, all the different ways that people can interpret the same archetype. The strength is great. Instead of taming the animal in the way of sort of holding the animal's mouths closed, as we see in a lot of the other images of strength, you know, just staring your inner beast down, or connecting with it, or gaining a new understanding of it. But it's a really powerful version of that card, the Hermit. And there's some really nice minor arcana, and again, just the ambiguity of the people. The Ten of Cups, you know, is traditionally the family image, and I like here you have the couple with their pets, you know. The Nine of Swords, the Nine of Pentacles, and you can see that from suit to suit, the colors are used to separate them. So the green for the pentacles, and then we have this orangey brown for the wands, and then this sort of really light yellowy green for the swords. The courts maybe don't give you as much as, say, something like the heavily illustrated, the Dark Mansion that I showed you earlier, but with the postures of the characters, there's a lot of energy implied there that I think helps to communicate the difference. Like here, this page, you know, they look like they're playing around. They're trying to learn. You know, they've watched a martial arts movie, and they're trying to learn their combat skills. Whereas this Knight of Swords, he's ready. He's squaring up and ready to take on whatever's coming. So, you know, there's a lot more I could say about this deck, but I'm just sort of scratching the surface of it, really. The Queen of Swords, the King of Swords. So this is a really lovely deck, and one that I'm definitely going to be working with more in the future, and it's lovely for, I think it would be really suitable as a beginner deck. The Fountain Tarot, I think I treated myself too. This was an independent deck originally, but it's this is the mass market edition, but it still comes in this really, really nice box. Has a little ribbon, has this lovely silver gilding, and I'm just looking for the creator's name, actually. Oh yeah, so there's the the creative team behind it. Jonathan Sayes is the creator, Jason Gruel the writer, Andy Todaro designer, and it's published by Roost Books. And it comes with a nice little guidebook. So it has one additional card, the Fountain. Now this deck seems to be a bit of a kind of a Marmite deck for people. Some people seem to really find it very cold, and other people love it. I do really like it, and I find it surprisingly easy to read with, a little bit like the Dreamkeeper's Tarot that I showed in a previous video. It has that kind of dreamy, intuitive art that might at first seem like it would be difficult to read with, but there's so much in the image, and it evokes so much of what I understand about the cards that it's actually quite easy to read with. And this moon card was the number one card that made me want to buy this deck. They are oil paintings, I believe. The Hierophant. So there's a lot of geometrical imagery in these. The High Priestess. There's death. It's quite an unsettling image. Star. And the courts are lovely as well. The Page of Coins. So we've coins instead of pentacles. The Knight of Coins. The Queen of Coins. The King of Coins. You know, you can recognize those archetypes from other decks. They're portrayed maybe in a more modern way, but they're still people I recognize, if that makes sense. Within the minors, they're very beautiful, but some of them are more abstract than others. There's something about the art in this deck that reminds me a little bit of Francis Bacon, who's not an artist that I enjoy looking at, funnily enough. He portrays human bodies in quite unsettling ways. And this isn't as unsettling as his art in its approach, but there's something about the blurry outlines of the shapes that just reminds me of his work, and I suppose it's very powerful. But the Ten of Swords, the Eight of Cups, the Five of Coins, the Two of Wands. So these are beautiful cards. It's a lovely deck, and definitely one that I will work with more as I go forward. I decided that 2020 I wouldn't be acquiring many, if any, new decks because I got so many last year that I haven't had a chance to really work with. And then this is the last one I'm going to show you today. This is the Everyday Tarot, which is from Bridget Esselmont, who is the creator behind Biddy Tarot. It is, I'll find the artist's name in a minute, but it's a nice little deck, but I hate this box. So the book kind of slots in there. It's a perfectly nice sort of short, snappy book, probably quite good as a beginner deck actually. And then there's this plastic bit that the cards are in. This is a deck that's crying out for a bag. And maybe if I had a little bag where I could keep it in my purse or something, or my handbag as I was traveling around, I might get more use out of it as a travel deck. Because you can see, say if you compare it to the size of the Spirit Within Tarot, it's really quite a small deck. So they have that nice matte gold edging, and the style of the art, it's really, really consistent. It's gold, purple and white, which associates with the branding on the Biddy Tarot website and books and all of that. It's really nice and effective and simple in a similar kind of way to the Spirit Within Tarot, where the shapes and the sort of essential symbolism from the Rider-Waite-Smith have been depicted in a modern, simplified way. So I have absolutely no quarrel with the images and the way they're done. And if you are a person who likes to read, directionally and looking at the interactions between cards, as most of these characters are shown in profile, it's quite straightforward to read the interactions between the characters. Looking at the courts, for example, really, you can see that quite easily. So it looks nice in a spread, and you can sort of see how the energies of one card might be interacting with another. So it's a lovely deck. I just struggle to handle it. If I'm honest, the size is awkward. You can overhand shuffle them fairly well. I can't riffle shuffle the deck. I think the smallness versus the thickness and the matte finish just means, like, even to try to thumb through it to look for a particular card, they clump together, and I just find it a little bit awkward to handle. Those are the backs of those. So it's but it is a nice deck. It's just a little bit awkward to handle. I realize I haven't shown the backs of most of these decks today. So this is the third video in my tarot collection. I've got one more video to share, and if you'd like to see that, please hit the subscribe button, and thanks for coming back. If you haven't seen the first two parts of my deck collection, I will link them below. So thank you, and bye-bye.